With the 2025 Six Invitational less than a month away, it's time for the Rainbow Six Siege World's content creators to rank the teams going to Boston. And this year, I join the ranks for real, as I too will be diving headlong into my own breakdowns for the 20 teams vying for the world title in this, the 9th edition of Siege's World Championship. And we kick things off with APAC, because there's a bit to break down here, and not a lot of it's particularly good. For one, they returned to their trend of sending the least number of representatives to an SI with only 4, which is a huge step down from sending the most last year with 6, although that was more down to the changes in the global standings points distribution from last year to this year. Secondly, the team that stunned the world and got top 8 for Oceania last year, the team formerly known as Team Bliss, well, they're not going to SI. Gaming Gladiators only just missed out on qualifying on points thanks to them being at the bottom of a 3-way tie on 300 points, which necessitated them going through the qualified gauntlet. But then they get knocked down in the OCE close qual with losses to their arch rivals in the Chiefs and a resurgent supernova back-to-back. And thirdly, I don't have a lot of hope for the teams that did qualify for SI this year, but for different reasons. Let's begin with the team that got placed highest for APAC on global standings, Scarz. As I'm about to show you, if this is the best team that we're sending to SI this year, then APAC itself has a serious problem. Their 2024 was something of a roller coaster with more valleys than peaks. They were the only team from Japan to make it to Sao Paulo last year, which was great for them. But then they get eliminated in groups when many had them tagged to at least make it into the lower bracket of playoffs. What makes that result even more damning is that their group also consisted of the Sonics, Fury, Los, and Team Falcons. That was one of the easiest draws anyone could have asked for, and they flunked. Badly. Following SI, Scarz decided to bench Pion and bring in Nina after his time on Northampton came to an end when the org disbanded on New Year's Eve 2023. Well, that's a hell of a way to ring in the new year. With fish like Teu, Washoi, Rek, and Nina, Scarz continued their clean sweep of the Japan League with first place in both Stage 1 and Stage 2, booking their tickets to Phase 2 for both the Manchester and Montreal majors. But their international results are where the real focus is, and it's not ideal. Getting one win in each major and being eliminated midway through the Swiss phase on both occasions. And one of those wins was against their compatriots in Cyclops. Now, they did qualify for the Esports World Cup as well, and they managed to beat the Wolves in the lower bracket of Group B, and then lost to Dark Zero 2-0 in the very next game. So if you do the math, they only beat 2 teams outside their home region throughout 2024, and that was against a weakened G2 in Montreal and a rebuilding Wolves at the Esports World Cup. Scarz have struggled to make a dent at the international level ever since they exploded on the scene back in Copenhagen 23. But despite that, they are going to their second SI purely because they're an incredibly consistent team in terms of international play. They win the Japan League for that stage, they get into Phase 2 of that respective major, they struggle and get knocked out early, lather, rinse, repeat. And on that basis, okay, sure, I'll concede that they earned their place at SI this year. They are the only team from the entire APAC region, that's South Korea, Japan, Asia, and Oceania, to make it to the Phase 2 of both majors this year. I will give them that much at least. But in terms of how far they'll go, I think it's almost going to be a carbon copy of last year's results and getting grouped. Probably without even a win. Moving over to the team formerly known as Bleed. Their last couple of months got really scuffed, which is a crying shame because the first half of that year was nothing short of fantastic. Starting with their side last year, they survived the group of death with wins against both M80 and Team Liquid, and they even took a map off both Virtus Pro and the eventual world champions of W7M. Also defied expectation when they eliminated the Atlanta Major Grand Finalists in Los and proceeded to the second round of the lower bracket. Now, they did fall short against SSG, but that result made them the second highest placed APAC team in SI, with only Team Bliss doing one round better. They then keep up the momentum in the newly reformatted Asia League and got first place, booking their ticket for the Manchester Major. Following a strong start in Phase 1 against CAG Osaka, Bleed came up against the same team that eliminated them at SI, SSG, and while they did take the first map off them, they then proceeded to lose the next 14 rounds straight, giving Space Station a reverse sweep and sending Bleed down to the lower bracket. That shouldn't have happened. Not in that manner, at least. Thankfully, Bleed were able to bounce back against VRX and proceeded to Phase 2. They did start strong in Phase 2 with wins in the seeding matches against both PSG Talon and Into the Breach, getting them into the 2-0 bracket with Team Bliss, Fury, and Team Secret. However, this is where the wheels start to come off the rails a little bit. Coming up against the World Champions of Fury, it was never going to be an easy task, but Bleed very nearly pushed it to Map 3, so props to them there. They then followed up with a near capitulation against M80 and a competitive loss to Team Liquid. Still, they did make it to the final round of Swiss, alongside Talent and Team Bliss. This becomes important later, so put a pin here. After a quarterfinals finish at the EWC, including a surprise win against FaZe Clan in the group stage, Bleed returned to the Asia League for Stage 2. And this is where everything truly begins to come off the rails. Not within the server per se. A second place in Stage 2 is still pretty damn good, but it wasn't enough to qualify for the Montreal Major, which was won by Elevate. However, it's about this time that social media gets flooded with allegations and rumors about Bleed the organization, from not paying their players across all their teams, not just the RL6 roster, to the CEO going completely radio silent, to him and one of his friends from within the org facing criminal charges with the Hong Kong police for assault. It's been one shit show after another. Not long after that, the entire roster and support staff leave Bleed in solidarity, going LFO for the foreseeable future.
Have a nice day, you miserable bastards.
After the roster's place at SI was confirmed, Ubisoft released a statement saying that they were pulling Bleed's competitive license for failing to maintain an eligible roster. Within that same statement, they also committed that they would work to ensure that Bled would be able to travel to and compete in Boston. It's at this point where things get a little bit murky, because despite being runners-up at the APAC Cup to CAG Osaka, no one has seemingly picked up this roster. They only recently just announced their team name for SI, which, by the way, is a fantastically hilarious callback. They also confirmed their roster for SI, confirming that Turtster was out and Noodle was coming in, as well as Julio not being their coach. The real unknown here is Corey coming back to Siege as Team Joel's new coach. The man's been out of T1 for about 3 years. His last game at the top level was with Rogue for the 2021 EUL Finals. However, Mentalist has said that the team will begin a 2-week boot camp starting on the 17th, thanks to a mystery sponsor. He also dropped hints that their same roster may potentially have a long-term future with the team. Mystery and intrigue? I like it. If these guys can find themselves some much-needed stability within the next few weeks, and they can knuckle down and get something really special cooked up, then these 5 guys are prospects you should watch out for, and the rest of the competition should pay attention. And I am hoping to God that they have a reputable org backing them. Not just because they need it, but because they fucking well deserve it. And the last team to qualify to SI via global standings points is a team that exploded onto the scene in South Korea and put the rest of APAC on notice, PSG Talon. Following the announcement of the South Korean Talon Esports and French PSG Esports forming a partnership, this roster has suddenly made the previously struggling Talon relevant again, thanks in no small part to the acquisition of World Championship player and coach in Fabian, as well as a much improved coaching structure. And the effect was immediate, getting first place in Stage 1 for the South Korean League and booking their spot in Phase 2 of the Manchester Major, which is also about the same time where they announced the signing of Joker as the team's analyst. After losing their first match in Phase 2 against Bleed, Talon would bounce back and push all the way to round 5 of the Swiss phase, including an upset win against BDS in the round 3 mid-group. However, they would fall short in round 5 against Beast Coast, but still a great result on their debut event. After that, they decide to switch up the roster a little bit. JLT and Roy Boy depart the team, and Yas and Gotti come in to take their places, with Rumatech coming in as a sub. However, that didn't seem to work the way it was intended, with a second place in Stage 2 in the South Korean League, falling short to D+ in the Grand Final. Things slip further away from them when they miss out on Montreal altogether for a second time, after losing to FearX in the South Korean League LCQ. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that with the exception of the LCQ run for the Montreal Major, PSG Talon had the exact same path throughout the competitive season as Team Joel, first place in Stage 1 of their respective league, eliminated in the final round of groups in Manchester. Stage 2 and Stage 2 of their respective leagues missed out on qualifying for the Montreal Major. And to further add to the what the fuck factor, Team Bliss / Gaming Gladiators also had the exact same path and points distribution at the team, meaning, as mentioned earlier, we had 3 teams on 300 points. Coincidence? I think not. However, the reason why GG missed out on SI via global standings points was because they were the lone men on the totem pole thanks to the tiebreaker rules in effect. If any other result in both Stage 2 and Montreal went against them, then Team Joel and PSG Talon would have also been knocked out of the top 16. Sheer blind luck saved both teams' SI hopes, and PSG Talon are going to have to rely on their luck a little bit more when it comes to Boston. Having a World Championship player / coach in Fabian, who is arguably one of the biggest brains in the game, is an invaluable resource that should be exploited by PSG Talon. But this is going to be the Org's first ever appearance at SI, which is already an achievement in itself. The relative inexperience at big events like this is going to be a factor for the majority of them. Make no mistake about that. But if they can remain calm, collected, and show us the same level of form that almost got them into the playoffs in Manchester, then I think PSG Talon will do alright. And now for the final team from APAC, the team that made it through the last chance qualifier after beating both the Chiefs and FearX on 2 separate occasions. We now have to talk about CAG Osaka. Oh, God. Ow! Failed to make the playoffs of any international event throughout 2024, didn't even make SI last year. You gotta wonder what it is about this team that is fantastic within the confines of APAC, but drowned like a shark on dry land in international competition. I'm serious. If you look back at all their LAN results throughout their entire history, then you'll find that they're not within the top 8 even once. Spoiler alert, I did check this out. And they are 0-10 for making the playoff bracket. That is an appalling record. Even CAG's 2024 season wasn't all that great. 5th place in Stage 1 of the Japan League and 3rd place in Stage 2. They would then follow this up with a run in Manchester that was actually respectable when they eliminated E1 from groups. But they wouldn't even make it to groups in Montreal after being eliminated by Chiefs in the play-ins. Now, some of you are going, hold on a second. If they didn't win either stage of the Japan League, then how the hell did they even make it to either major in the first place, let alone both of them? Well, CAG Osaka seems to have hidden talent. They almost always win their respective last chance qualifier. I'm not joking. Every Premier LAN event this year, this team has won their spot by doing it the hard way. What? I swear, CAG may be one of the best teams within the confines of APAC, and this was confirmed by them winning the APAC Cup last month. And I can't believe I'm saying this about a team that's perpetually grouped at international events. In any case, Adam, Black Ray, Chibisu, Shureep, Shiranako are all going to Boston next year. They are going to the Invitational again. But history teaches us it is going to take a minor fucking miracle for them to even get out of groups. Short of an act from the Lord God Almighty himself, CAG are going to get smoked in groups. Again. So the question is there a team from APAC that's actually going to make a dent at SI this year? To be honest, I'm only going to say Talon. And even then, I'm not confident in that statement. CAG Osaka just cannot perform at the international level in their very extensive history, and therefore the bar is permanently glued near the bottom. Scarz have not been able to recapture that same lightning in a bottle that took them to Copenhagen nearly 2 years ago. Team Joel, I feel, is the wild card here. This 5-stack is very good on paper, and I can't discount the inclusion of Noodle, but their last few months have been so unstable that you can't help but wonder if their form has been affected in some way. The unfortunate expectation is that APAC is going to drown compared to the rest of the world at SI, like we have done since we've been added to the world stage. As painful as that is for me to say, as an APAC fan myself. Maybe if D Plus had a roster to shout about, or they didn't drop their last roster just a few weeks ago, or if GG had the same roster that took them to top 8 last year, then maybe, just maybe, we would have some hope. But you send who you can, hope for the best, and prepare for the worst. That's it for APAC's contingent at SI this year. Is there any team that you think has a shot of surpassing expectations at Boston? Hit me up in the comments below, and we'll have a spirited argument about it. Brazil and South America is up next. This one gets rather juicy. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. Any and all support is greatly appreciated. I have the goal of 250 subs by the conclusion of the regional finals at the end of the year. I'm looking forward to more content over the year, and keep an eye out during the lead up to SI. I have a few more videos planned before the tourney kicks off on the 3rd. Until next time, operators, this is your resident Silver Wolf, signing out.